It's a beautiful day and welcome to ATM Blowout. ATM Blowout is a syndicated live program of the network. Here our job is simple. We hold conversation on special interest topics. We bring you news, events and stories through correspondent reports, and we'll do this also using bringing you experts' opinions and stakeholders' analysis on various issues in the news. Our first point of call this morning is on ANCO's chart. The Federal Capital Territory Administration Task Force impound crush over 400 commercial motorcycles. On NBA, Mike Q adjourns a general meeting amidst maladministration accusations. On Silver Jubilee, APC in 8 years turned Nigeria into world poverty capital. This is coming from PDP. In governance, NLC berates the federal government for enriching governors with palliatives. On Presidential Tribunal, over 100 Nigerians signed petition demanding justice. On military intervention, Atiku urged African leaders to investigate causes of coups. And then, still on coup, President Tinubu says his fear of Niger's situation is justified. Still on Niger, junta orders police to expel French ambassador. Our guest on the show this morning is Mr. Daniel Momo. He is here this morning. He's a civil society advocate. He's here this morning as a public affairs analyst. Stay with us. We'll come back to you on ANCO's chart after the break. Welcome back to ATM Blowout. It's time for Anchor's Chat. Let's get to the FCT, everyone. Operatives of the Federal Capital Territory Administration Joint Task Force team have impounded over 400 commercial motorcycles for traffic violations in the Federal Capital City. Now, the seizure followed the coming of the strategic spots that the Okada operators use as their route for operations like Baduma Second, Asokoro Extension, Galadi Mawa by Primary School, Gudu Market, Kabusa Junction, and Apo Mechanic. While speaking before crushing of the impounded motorcycles at Area 1, the Federal Capital Territory Commissioner of Police, Garba Haruna, said the exercise was a sign that the law on the Okada ban was still enforced. The FCT residents are aware that motorcycles had been banned from entering the Federal Capital City since 2006. Crushing of the Okada is to show a signal that the city center is not an area for them to operate. There are designated areas for them to operate, that is the suburbs of FCT. So the recalcitrant type will learn from this exercise. We don't want to see any motorcycles in the city center, he said. On his part, the director of FCT, Directorate of Road Traffic Services, Abdulatif Bello, said the new minister of FCT, Yeson Wike, has given the directorate a marching order to ensure commercial motorcycle cyclists and keke napep operators are taken off Abuja roads. He explained that even though the DRTs has been working hard to sustain the ban on Okada riders within Abuja metropolis since it was put in place in 2006, the recalcitrant operators keep returning to the roads. According to him, the administration had declared zero tolerance for illegal activities and would ensure the effort is sustained under the new administration. Every time I read such news, as a Nigerian, as a human, as a journalist, it can never be more than this. And I always ask myself, why do we have leaders who don't think? Why do we have people in political positions, appointments, as you may, who don't use their head to say, okay, first of all, let's talk about the ban. You said the ban was done in 2006. 2006 to now, this is long years apart. So there is a ban, and somehow you could not have a mechanism that will stop these people from entering the FCT. You allow them to operate as if the ban doesn't exist, just like several laws that are obsolete in this country because nobody cares about implementing them. And then suddenly the FCT minister comes in, parks 400 motorcycles, and destroyed them. Forget about implementing the ban, suddenly deciding to implement the ban. Let's even leave that on one side. Excuse me here, 400 motorcycles. So there is nothing in your mind that tells you that this can even be converted in a form of wealth. There's nothing in your mind that says that this can be used. I can never understand. This is the same thing they did in Lagos last year. When it comes to campaigns and election, you don't remember that these people are breaking the law. You need their votes. Whatever it takes, you gather everything. They are not breaking the law. In fact, they are the best humans at that point. And as soon as you get those votes, you come in and then you begin to act as if you never used these people or wanted them or allowed them to have their way, even when you know that there are laws. The FCT minister is just coming into power, yes. But some of these people have been working within the FCT who are also carrying out this. Is there no other way to have managed this? Why are you even destroyed? Because now that you have destroyed this, in 5 years' time, when this FCT minister leaves, are you saying that people will not find a way to come into Abuja with bikes? Now, let's even talk about why people... In the first place, you're wondering, why would the FCT have keke napep and bike? It is because this is the government failure, staring everybody in the face. Because you are suddenly thinking that the only people who should occupy the FCT are those with money, the elites, who can afford to pay the bills within the FCT metropolis, who can afford to pay the rent and live within there. So they should have a car. And you are suddenly saying that everyone who lives in the FCT who does not have a car, you have enough mass transit and public taxis that can actually, ply people from one point to the other. That's exactly what you've said, because we're yet to hear us to say, okay, this is what we have done as an alternative. Nobody should even use Okada. Because if there is nobody to take Okada, take a ride on a bike, The Okada man, even if he decides to buy the golden motorcycle, nobody will be on it because there is a better alternative. I mean, bike is not even one of the safest means of transportation anyway. So when you have a situation like that in the FCT, why don't you look for a mechanism that can stop them from coming in? What is the essence, what is the economic value of destroying impounded properties that could be converted into a different form of wealth? You could actually, push it into state. There are several things that you could have sat down to think through. You're impounding 400 vehicles, commercial motorcycles, and we should be clapping for the government. Oh, you FCT minister and the FCT administration, you have done us something well by destroying 400 vehicles. I'm not even saying don't punish these people for breaking the said law that was put in place in 2006. I'm saying that if there are no mechanisms that you have put in place to ensure that hungry people who only sees Okada riding as a means of livelihood, for them to use Okada to ply their trade and bring in people who cannot afford, who don't have a car, who cannot afford to afford the kind of luxury that a lot of people are accustomed to in Abuja, they use Okada. They are your janitors, they are your cleaners, they are your office attendants. They are people who come in from the suburbs. So if all the work they do for you don't matter, it doesn't matter to you, and then you didn't provide alternative, at least more taxis, maybe a mass transit of some sort that's just for the FCT, and then you impound it. So first and foremost, how are they going to be managing to get to work on time? When there is traffic, how are they going to be managing to run their basic businesses to put food on their table? The other time he came out to say that those who are selling corn on the road, that they are harboring criminals, so they are going to chase all of them away. And I asked, is there no way to actually look at the streets of New York? There are places you go to, you find some of these well-packaged street food. Street food can be made into an art. Revenue can be generated from that. If only we have leaders who decide to say, okay, they are thinking, and being a leader is not just about, oh, this is what we want to do. You implement it at your level without even asking yourself, how much am I losing when even Okadas, motorbikes can be taxed. If we have a system that is running the way it, or they can register, they can be taxed. And it is not rocket science. Pick up a young secondary school leaver who knows how to operate a computer, set up a small office, and get 2 or 3 of them there. These people will go there, line up, and get registered properly. What is the big deal in doing that? When you are not, especially when you're not providing an alternative to their means of livelihood. Come on, these people are Nigerians. 3. Yep. Do that. It's so annoying knowing that these vehicles, if you send it to some rural areas where farmers are, this will do a whole lot for them in terms of having at least transit. Especially this period where even ordinary transportation is so expensive, that can help them to at least transfer their goods from one point to the other. As small as that is, that could mean so much for them. You can put these motorcycles in a vehicle, take them somewhere in a different place where they are still useful. At least, what exactly is the economic sense of this? And these 400 people, or maybe more, that those whose bikes were not impounded, where are you taking them to? What happens to them now? As a government, these people are residents or natives of the FCT. What's your plan? As an alternative means of livelihood. You're not creating jobs. You're taking the little they were able to find a way, and now you're even making a mess of the whole thing. What's the plan? So you have 400 people or more who don't have a job, who don't have what to put food on their table. So what's the plan to provide an alternative? I honestly think that Nigerian leaders really need to do better. We really need to do better. There's got to be a way for you to have the individuals who actually think around you, and so that they can put a human face to everything you're doing. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, what is the point of saying you're a leader who is doing A, B, C, D if it doesn't have direct positive impact in the life of people? When you paint Abuja clean for the elites, like those who can afford to fit into the city and they fit into it, those your house helps, your maids, your nannies, your domestic staff, what have you, your clerks in the office, the janitors, how exactly do you think they're going to be coming to work? This has been Anchor's Chat. Everyone will come back to you after the break. back to ATM Blowout, and it's time for us to blow out on the rest of the issues for this morning. On the show this morning, I have Mr. Daniel Momo. He is here, he's speaking as a public affairs analyst, but he likes to see himself as an advocate of good governance. Good to have you on ATM Blowout today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start from the NBA. There are several stories about the NBA, so let's start from there. All right, so now, what started as a normal annual general meeting of the Nigerian Bar Association took a chaotic turn when the second vice president of the association, that's Chukwemeka Clement Ugo Esquire, while he was presenting his annual report to lawyers, accused the NBA president, YCYQs, of not carrying him along, sidelining his office and undermining his constitutional duties. He said, "I've not been carried along in everything the president is doing. The AGM should look into my plight and empower me to function if the president and his vice president is not available. I am to represent this association, and I can't represent the association adequately if I'm not carried along on events." He pleaded with their meeting, which is the highest decision-making body of the association. He said, "I'm not poor, but my office should be empowered and funded to act effectively." Now, the third vice president, Mandi Asagba, also accused the NBA president of disregard to her office, deliberate acts by the president to make her office redundant. In an emotion-laden voice, she said the NBA third vice president narrated to the bewildered lawyers how Mike Hugh has disrespected and sabotaged her office. According to her, the whole annual general meeting and AGS was done without the knowledge of national officers. The third vice president, that's Sangba, lamented. He said perhaps the most shocking moment was when the NBA National Treasury, Caroline Anze Bishop Esquire, mounted the podium and disowned the financial statement as not coming from her and accused the NBA president of sidelining her office. He said, Anze Bishop narrated the shock of several lawyers present, that she was never consulted nor involved in preparation of Treasurer's reports. So she disowned the report and refused to adopt it. Now, she said the financial report was prepared without my singular input. I respect the bar too much to sign an account I don't know. Okay. Well, attempts from a former NBA president, that's Osijio Okocha, to control the situation, while he suggested that the issues should be dealt with by an elders committee, well, it was overruled by the NBA president, who insisted that he must respond to the allegations. In that response, the NBA president accused his fellow officers of fighting him because of his refusal to share the lawyers' practicing fees with them. He gave instances where other national officers conspired to share millions of naira belonging to the NBA, but his refusal made them accuse him without cause. So the meeting ended abruptly, owing to the chaos occasioned by the national officers' fight, as the NBA president adjourned the meeting amidst chaos and shouts from lawyers. All right, coming to you, Mr. Momo. So now, this is a scenario that's been painted. Well, this is an internal issue. The one that was in public was invitation of Portable to perform at the NBA. So it's been trending on social media since yesterday. How do you set up a committee to investigate the baddest lawyer, one of the young lawyers who calls herself the baddest lawyer, to investigate her for nudity and smoking publicly in Gab? But now you invite someone like an artist, like of all the artists to bring to the bar, you're inviting Portable to perform. While all of that is going on, now you have this issue with the financial part of the NBA. Generally speaking, give us an overview of your opinion of what is going on with the Nigerian Bar Association from their ongoing national annual conference, and of course other issues that's been going on prior to this time. Your take.
Well, thank you for having me once again. It's shocking. It's immoral. There's this reign of disbelief, because we were made to understand that these are learned people. Learned people knows how to follow the law, knows how to follow the rules, knows how to teach the society how the society should go. So that's why I said it is immoral. From what you just analyzed now, why I use the word shocking is you have the MBA second vice president, the treasurer, accusing the MBA president. But the vice president has not accused the MBA president of any act or any wrongdoing. That is one. Two, I think for every office, there are laid down procedures of what to do, what you are empowered to do. Why I said it is shocking is for the vice president coming to an AGM meeting, asking that he be empowered. Again, you ask, how about the rules and the oath of office you took? What happened to them?
And these are lawyers.
Yeah, that's why I use the word learned. Maybe when we say lawyers, we will not understand. But we were made to believe
that they are learned.
That these are learned people. That we are supposed to learn from them because they are learned people. And so if learned people act this way, then you turn back to say, you ask again, what's going on? The treasurer of every organization is as powerful as the president because he or she holds the account to the running of that organization. Then if the treasurer would wait until the AGM meeting, which is once in a year, to come and give our side of the story, I think we need to dig out a lot of things happening that we do not know. If my office is violated, like I said, every one of them took the oath of office.
Yep.
If my office is violated, I know who to write to. I know what to write. I know how to go about it. I would not sit and wait till we have an annual general meeting and then come to now say to, because the annual general meeting you have comprised of all zoners, all state representative. I will not wait to come there to now make my plight. For me, it doesn't make any sense. It's shocking and it's immoral.
So when you say, I agree with you, there are steps you should have taken because you've been sitting in office from the point you were appointed. There are responsibilities attached to you that you ought to be delivering, and you are not doing that from the first, second, third vice president, and of course the treasurer. Now they all have their responsibilities. If you were not delivering on this in these positions for 1 year, you did nothing about it. Now, but you said something interesting, which is crucial. You said there's someone you ought to have written to say is it not the same president of the NBA that you ought to write, or is that maybe the NJC or some other a different body? Who exactly is, because that's the president who is being accused.
No, I think the president too is also supposed to report to that organ of the body. Meanwhile, do not forget that most of these national officers came from a representative from either the state or the zonal level to the national level. If there is a crisis within, you can fall back home to say, I have not been given the opportunity that I came here to actually represent this organ as a body. And you see, the funniest thing in all of these accusations is the fact that the president of the body comes up not just to refute what also laying an accusation. And if that had happened long before now, why did you not call for a meeting to say this is what these persons wants me to do to share this money? And then you also waited until you have been accused. That's why I said, you see, we need to.
I agree with you that there is a more darkness around that needs to be unraveled, that needs some light, shedding of light. However, they said you never funded their office, never gave them opportunity to do what they are supposed to do. And you are coming up to say the reason why you never gave them the opportunity is because they want you to share lawyers' annual fee. I'm trying to say, how does that even correlate with the fact that as a leader, you ignored offices you're supposed to work with? And now, the reason you're saying that why, for instance, let's look at the Treasury, why you did not allow the funding, the processes to go through her, according to him, is because she wants to share lawyers' fee, the annual fee. But let's even say that is the case. How does that stop her from doing her job?
You see, there are certain things that are still not clear. But based on these revelations that we have, we can begin to look at issues critically. There are what is called statutory obligation. whether the president likes it or not, those statutory obligations, those statutory allocations goes to that office.
Yes.
But sometimes you needed the president to consent to that.
Yeah.
And once it is not being done, other bodies would ask that, why are all these statutory functions, statutory allocations, probably say funding, probably saying some conferences to attend, probably say some training to be attended. Why are these things not being done? People would have asked. But in saying that, I think that there are deeper issues. How did funds go out of that account without the treasurer?
Yeah.
The first one goes out, the second one goes out, the third one goes out. These are learned people. Then what did she do? Why do you wait until the close of the day when the curtain will be drawn on you guys to now say no?
Yeah.
That I have not been functioning, I needed power, empower me and all of that. No, there are certain issues that do not blend.
I totally agree with you. Now, looking at the embarrassing state of Nigeria's NBA today, the NBA in Nigeria, you recall that not too long ago, Professor Chidodin Kano had to resign his membership of one of these bodies on the accusation that funds were being moved without the authorization of those who should know about these funds. Now, bringing that to the fore with the accusation being made before the NBA AGM right now, and considering the position of the NBA president saying, oh, they did not consult, they wanted us to share a certain money, and that's the excuse why offices under you were left without activities or function the way they ought. You actually authorized funding without the treasury. If you put these two side by side, help us paint a better picture of this state of the NBA as it is.
It shows that the corruption that we accuse other people of, we are called corruption. You stated the issue of Professor
Kano,
who resigned to say, look, my integrity is more to me than this office. That is what I expect the second vice president to have done. That is what I expect the treasurer to have done. They haven't done that. I think, like they say, everything comes back to the table of the president. If you have all of these things ab initio, you didn't say anything, you didn't report to anything, there was no evidence of query given. There was, because if you say that, oh, people wanted you to share some fund, I would give query, I would issue query. There were no evidence of query that has been issued. To say, okay, these are the evidences I have because we are learned people. These are the evidences that I have to say this is what they want me to compromise my office. And I cannot compromise my office. And based on that, but even if that has happened, does the NBA president has power to stop the treasurer from functioning, to stop the office of the second vice president, to stop the office of the third vice president? No. This thing should not happen because these are national officers that came in from each zone in Nigeria. And so for me, it's shocking when you see learned people who goes to defend others in court having issues like this. You remember the last NBA conference?
Oh, yeah, the one of last year in Lagos.
Funds were stolen. Ordinary, how do you call it now?
Food
packs. Guys were learned. I keep using that word. Learned people were fighting as if we're in a market in my one or my two. It is funny. And so sometimes I think that there should be an in-house cleansing before you have meetings like this go on to say that I have not been... Okay, now a second vice president coming on to say, okay, please empower me. Who should empower you in that place? You needed an organ of the body to tinker with the constitution of the NBA to give you further powers that you required. But the powers given to your office, what has happened to them? Have you exhausted those powers? Claiming to me that you are not a poor man, it has nothing to do with the issue. It has nothing to do with the issue. The issue is that you were supposed to function because you came in as national officer from the zone, from the state. For me, you have let down those places you came to represent.
Wow. We just leave the NBA and the Leonard State and the issue.
I'm sorry, like this thing you said, I think there are clear differences between what Portable did and what
Ifunanya,
the other lady
lawyer.
did. In terms of entertainment, there are varieties. Portable music might be interesting to me, it might not be interesting to other persons. So bringing entertainment into being a lawyer, it doesn't hold. It's not, they are two different things.
Yeah.
The sick has been dropped, the wig has been dropped. We are now here to fraternize, to enjoy ourselves. The music, which is entertainment in quote, is different from the fact that how can you bring it, but no. People can have...
Yeah, I think the backlash is the fact that, well, you're right, that's actually the fact, but the backlash is in the fact that the nature of Portable, what he represents, even though he's an entertainer. So if the NBA says that they are too classy to have someone like that, so that like Funaya and her exes, which is because she was seen in robe doing some of these things, and she represents a lawyer. She says, calls herself a lawyer, which is understandable. If the NBA feels that they are too classy, too learned, why would you bring someone?
So which of the Nigerian artists do you want to bring? That their musics are not the same. They are not the same.
Maybe they will bring someone that doesn't look like Portable, that doesn't behave like Portable. Maybe they'll bring a Naira Marley, since the EFCC is using him.
Even a Naira Marley, there are some persons who still tells you his kind of music is not...
I wouldn't know where we are going to, honestly. But sometimes you look at this conversation and you ask yourself, where is all of this going to?
But the overall, I think the NBA conference started good.
Yeah, this year we did good with the organizing.
Yes, but this later end accusations, you according to what you said now, ended abruptly.
Yeah.
Because of these accusations. Yeah. Instead of us to go home shaking hands, hugging and all of that, we're now going home in separate ways, keeping malice, removing the swords. And then in the next few days, you will see accusations flying all around.
But you don't come to think of it, yeah? Olumide Akpata was in that office and served out through his tenure.
Yes, he served out. He served out, but his tenure was also the conference that brought shame to the NBA.
Yes, that's correct. But in the internal wrangling that we are seeing right now, couldn't Mike Hill find a way to manage this?
Absolutely.
Because he's the one taking the lead.
Absolutely. That's why I said everything comes to the president's table.
All right, we hope he finds a way to fix this. We want them to remain learned gentlemen, if you know what I mean. Let's talk about PDP's 25 years Golden Jubilee. So the People's Democratic Party, in marking its 25th anniversary on Thursday, said the All Progressives Congress 8 years has eroded gains made in Nigeria under the PDP's 16 years of governance. Well, the PDP to mark its 25th anniversary in a statement by its national spokesman, Dabo Ologunagba, said it is on record that the PDP administration, through deft management of the economy, achieved $18 billion debt relief from the Paris and London clubs, consolidated the banking sector, revolutionized the telecommunications sector, revamped the oil and gas manufacturing, aviation, agriculture, real estate, and other critical sectors to turn the inherited moribund economy into one of the fastest growing one in the world, and handed over a $550 billion economy, the largest in Africa and 26 globally in 2015, to the APC. Under the PDP's results-oriented leadership, he said our foreign direct investment grew to over $8 billion. Our foreign exchange reserves grew from $2 billion in 1999 to over 40 billion naira in 2014. Ologunagba said today, under the APC administration, our FDI plummeted to 0.19 billion naira in $2000 in 2022. He said in a space of 8 years, APC wrecked our economy and turned our nation into the poverty capital of the world. With frightening 35% unemployment rate, where hunger, starvation, strange diseases, and sudden deaths now ravage our citizens. Under the APC, major multinational companies are exiting Nigeria. The naira has fallen from 197 to $1 US under the PDP to abysmal $900 to $900 naira to $1 US. He said petrol, which sold at 87 naira per litre by 2015, now sells for over 600 naira per litre. He said this in addition to multiple harsh tariffs, taxes, and levies imposed on citizens by the APC administration. Ologunagba said that life in Nigeria under the APC has become very unbearable, such that Nigerians are now resorting to suicide and slavery missions abroad as options. So typically, the APC has no answer to allegations that bulk of the borrowed funds were looted by APC leader. It has not also provided answers to the allegations alleged looting of over 20 trillion, including few subsidy funds by its leaders. While the PDP established the EFCC and ICPC and fought corruption, the APC adopted corruption as a state policy where government agencies have become automated teller machines of APC leaders and their cronies. Well, this corroborates Transparency International ratings of Nigeria as the most corrupt West African nation and ranking 150 out of 180 in the World Corruption Perception Index under the APC. He said the Nigerians can recall how APC leaders openly romanced and even paid money to the terrorists ravaging our country. That our nation now ranks as one of the highest in the World Terrorism Index, with more than 20,000 citizens reportedly killed under the APC watch since 2015. On the occasion of its Silver Jubilee, the PDP called on Nigerians not to succumb to hopelessness under the prevailing despairing situation in the country, but remain optimistic in the hope that their democratic mandate will ultimately triumph in the end. The APC, well, first of all, congratulations to them on attaining 25 years as a political party. I think that's like one of the biggest feats so far when it comes to political party histories and what have you in Nigeria. But now let's talk about, okay, know that some of the things they ruled out as much as they can say, okay, they were able to achieve as a political party in 16 years. APC's 8 years and its downturn has also been ruled out. But why does it feel like the PDP is turning into a saint before the APC, and it somehow seems like there's no way to really make the APC look like they have some bearing on all of this, positively speaking?
Well, like you said, congratulations to the PDP. Every well-meaning Nigerian should encourage political party, the survival of every political party. We needed every democratic institutions to keep democratic values alive, either by checkmating the opposition, checkmating the government in power, providing solutions from what the government in power is providing. So every well-meaning Nigerian should congratulate the PDP, encourage them, because we do not, the death of political structures is the death of a nation. And so we must, you don't need to be a member to say no. You must encourage, you must congratulate them, you must wish them well. Now, having said that, on what they have said, depending on the angle at which you are looking at it from, one of which was the accusations that about 20,000 people have been killed through paid money to terrorists. But the PDP, in reeling out all of its achievements, did not tell the world that Boko Haram started while they were in government. Yeah. He grew up to become a monster under them. And so that's why I said, depending on where you are looking at it from. And this is not to say that probably maybe the APC and all of that, no. It is to say that the APC said, look, this is what the PDP has brought. We can do better. Give us your mandate, give us, we would change this. So PDP is right to accuse the APC of what they're accusing them of. And in all, for me, I think that it is healthy for the nation. It is healthy for democratic institutions that PDP make these allegations. In other words, to put the APC government on their toes. And we need them to stay alive and be alive. And once again, congratulations to them.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will be looking at NLC berating the federal government for enriching governors with palliative. This conversation about palliative, will it ever come to an end? We'll talk to you on all of that after the break. And welcome back to ATM Blowout, everyone. We're still having a conversation with an advocate, a good governance advocate, and that's Mr. Daniel Momo. But now let's go into the next story on the show this morning. The Nigerian Labour Congress accuses federal government of further enriching state governors with ongoing palliative, which were supposedly meant to cushion the adverse effect of the subsidy removal. President of the NLC, Comrade Joe Ajaero, who spoke at the NLC National Symposium tagged Nigeria economy and the crisis of surviving, robbing the poor to pay the rich. He described the removal of fuel subsidy as a war against the poor. Ajaero, who cited an example that governors were in the habit of converting whatever was meant for the poor masses and workers for their personal use and benefit, explained that the palliatives which the federal government was giving to a whole state were barely enough to adequately cater for just one local government area in a state. He said, what is happening in the country today is clearly a class war between us and the dispossessed and those that have. They want to continue to have, whether it's the issue of subsidy or whatever. So it is clearly a war against the poor. I have not seen such wickedness against the poor anywhere seen in Nigeria today. Ajaero said the announcement we got about the 5 billion naira allocation to the state is so annoying. You allocate billions to states and 5 trucks of rice. If you share 5 trucks of rice to a local government, they will not get one. If we accept the position of the Bureau of Statistics that we have 133 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor before the subsidy removal. Now, and after the subsidy removal, the number must have increased or doubled. If you multiply 5 billion by 36 states and Abuja, you will get about 185 billion naira. If you divide it by 133 million, which is multidimensionally poor, each person will not get up to 1,500. Is that the palliatives? You will take the palliative and give to the governors. It is obvious that anything you call palliative and give to the governors is not for workers. We all remembered how former President Buhari gave them money to offset salaries of workers, but they refused to use the money to better the life of Nigerian citizens under the governance. The NLC president also regretted that through the unfavorable actions of the government, the gap between the poor and the rich in Nigeria was further widening, even as the middle class has been totally eliminated. I'm trying to be careful with how I take off on this conversation. I don't know why Joe Ajaero would have to do this sum to the point that we now know that that is the 185 billion. Now, if you divide, ration it between 133 million people, you're going to get 1,500 naira. Now, and like he rightly said, whether we want to admit it or not, if we were 133 multidimensionally poor people in this country before subsidy removal, clearly that may have even doubled if you look at the cost of living and all of that. But if you come to think of it, what exactly would you think could have motivated the government to dish out, according to them, 5 billion to each state and 5 trucks of grains? I mean, grains, don't he said rice, it could be corn.
I understand.
Anything.
I understand, but I think for me, this has always been my disagreement with the NLC.
Okay.
Comrade Joe Ajaero speaks for the Nigerian workers, and we have more of the Nigerian people who do not work for government.
Yep.
And we are not factoring their own plight into all of this. That is one. 2, I have always said, for me, let's not always have this thing at the national level. There are governance at the state level. There are governance at the local government level. There are governance at the council levels. And in all of this, if what Comrade Joe Ajaero is saying is that why would we give this to the governors? We should always learn to put things at the subunits. Federal government can't be doing all of those things. The 5 trucks is a contribution of the federal government. Why not that the people of Rivers State, the people of Akwa Ibom State, the people of Edo State, the people of Nasarawa begin to hold their governors accountable? Let's not, Tinubu should not be the one sharing rice, deciding what we want. Like you said, those things could become, maybe, for example, the people of Rivers State want Gari. The people of Nasarawa would want cassava. the people of Borno might want fertilizer. Let the state decide what its citizens, what its locals want. This idea to say that, oh, these Nigerian workers will not. Nigerian workers are how many out of the 200 million people? How many are the Nigerian workers? No one is factoring. The man who pushed the truck on the road, the man who does his own. I do my own job. I dig my own borehole. I run my electricity. But I'm not being factored into what is happening. And so when we do all of these things and we hear the NLC speak this way, it is not fair to us who are not people who receive monthly salaries from the government. We should begin to have a national conversation. This idea of, in all of these crises that you see, in all of what they say, let the governors increase the salary of the workers. Every protest will die. But there are people who do not work for government.
So who is, okay, now, you know, this is a very critical part of the conversation that has been ongoing for quite some time, Mr. Momo. Now, who now is the person speaking for the Nigerian masses? Because the truth is, NLC speaks for the Nigerian workers. But somehow it's beginning to look like every time NLC speaks, they're speaking for Nigerians. But that's not actually the case.
That's how they made it look like. But ordinarily, they're speaking for Nigerian workers.
So what body is there that actually ought to be speaking for Nigerians now if we're going to have that conversation?
That is why you have people go for election every 4 years. The governor of Rivers State is elected by the people of Rivers State, not the workers of Rivers State.
Yeah.
And so his responsibility, and is responsible to the people of Rivers State, whether they work with the civil service or they do not work with the civil service. So the governor is the one to decide with his cabinet, in his own wisdom, to decide how the people of Rivers State will fare. It is not for Ajero to say that why should federal government give states money? If you have other states who have embezzled money, does that say we should stop giving state money? They have what we call the legal right. My sovereignty was transferred to the governor of Rivers State during my vote.
Yeah.
And so he has the right to decide what is good, what is bad. What I feel is bad is for us to come out and say to the Rivers State government that this is not good for us, those of us who reside here. It is not for Ajero to say that why would federal government give to state money? Who should talk about my local place here? It's not the federal government. It is the state government under Obiakpo local government here. And so when you see people talk at the federal level, to now, okay, let me assume what he's saying is that we should not give to the state governor. So who administer the palliative, they say, even though I disagree with some of this palliative, who then administer it to the locals at the grassroots? Because when we are afraid of corruption and all of that, we will not go forward. Yeah. Give them, if the embassy will challenge, the courts are there, the EFCC is there, other bodies are there. That is how societies are corrected. It is not the fear to say, oh, when you give to governors, this one. That is why till today, we are still afraid to have certain things to say that, oh, elections should not be conducted by state governors. Let them conduct elections. People go to court. That is how society changes. That's how society forms. But to now stay at the federal level and say you are afraid, why should they be given to the state government? They should be given to the state governors so that we all know who to hold responsible. They have names. I should not be looking at the president every day and complaining. I should ask the governor of Rivers State, the allocations you have received, what have you done with them?
Now, these palliatives, let's talk about the palliative itself. 5 billion. Some governors have not. Some I don't know if any state have received the 5 billion actually. What we've been reading is 2 billion.
In trenches.
Yeah, comes in
2
trenches.
billion.
Yeah, thereabouts. So let's make that clear. Now, when you talk about the grains, one of the issues he raises is that even 5 trucks of grain will not be enough for one local government. Adebayo, the SDP presidential candidate 2 days ago, was saying that, hey, the idea of removing fuel subsidy and providing palliative is actually makes no sense. It doesn't make economic sense because even what the government is providing for as palliative is not going to do anything. If this said palliative is not going to solve the problem of logistics, for instance, of people being able to pay transport from one point to the other, if it's not going to provide cushion the effects of the economic downturn that people, 1,500. Let's say you get 1,500. Let's even say that the governor decided not to embezzle the money or enrich themselves, like NLC says, and gives you 1,500. What is that going to do for you, even to the least family?
I think that, you see, in things like this, we must clearly understand that it will not get to all of us.
Ah, okay.
The fingers are not equal.
Oh, really?
For the fact, yes.
But I thought it's our money.
Yes, no, but you see, there are people down the ladder that needed immediate, before you bring the long-term plan. There are immediate short-term plans to keep them surviving.
I understand. I understand that. That's why I said, let's even say this 1,500 is given to the roadside vulcanizer, for instance, who pumps tire. Maybe that could do something for him for that day. If you look at put that now with what Adeboya was saying, that what is the point of removing this and providing this, because it's not going to, what would that, in today's Nigeria, let's say you give it to the poorest of the poor, you give them 1,500 today as your share. What would that do?
I think that money is not meant to be shared to people.
Okay.
Let's look at it this way. I think there was
a time... Are the governors empowered to do what they feel it works for their states with the money?
Yes, including putting up a register of those who to be given immediate things, those on the long-term plan. Yeah. Because I saw, I think one of those days I saw on Abba Road, the bus provided.
Yeah, that's for the states, yes. It's been working for
those,
State,
those are certain things that needed to be put in place immediate to cushion some effect. Now, if you say money to be shared, no, money cannot be shared to everybody. But transportation can be provided. The majority would use that transport. That's one. Two, the social register. There are people, I tell you, my dear, there are people who 1,500 is like saying amen to God, that prayer will answer today. I tell you, there are people who 1,500 is a miracle that has happened to them today.
I agree with you.
That's one.
I agree with you now. But if, that's I say, even the poorest of the poor, that you give that 1,500, what is it going to do for that person after that moment?
No, I understand your idea of, okay, you have the 1,500, what next?
Yeah.
After I finish eating.
The miracle happens.
I understand. That is why we need a conversation.
Okay.
An agreement. 5 billion is a lot of money.
True.
Is it the transportation? Like, I've not heard on air or anywhere or any announcement to say, oh, this is the pack of the buses that would convey people provided by government. Oh, you have to get it at Leme Junction. Oh, you have to get it at Rumokoro. No announcement, nothing.
But that's the usual Nigerian government policy.
No, you see, that is why I said there should be a conversation.
Yeah.
This idea of I know it all should never arise. I watched, I think, Osun State. When they received their own money, they invited the head of the Market Women Association. They invited the clerics, both from the Christian, the Muslim, and what they call their traditional worshippers, to have a conversation, make it a people-oriented. These things belong to the people. What do we do? How do we solve it? Yeah. And that now goes to say, in the Osun State's case, they were saying, please renovate about some healthcare things. So what does it mean? It means that for people in the local environment can go and access as simple as paracetamol in those hospitals. Now, that is for that state. We should be also having a conversation in River State. This idea of I know it all, no, don't worry, it won't solve the issues. But I believe that it is the local levels that determine what that 5 billion other palliative should do for them. It is not the federal government. It is not the NLC at the highest organ of the body. No, it will not work. These are the things that the military in those days in Nigeria had always done. Impose things at the national level. This is democracy. We must have that conversation at the state level.
Thank you very much. And of course, we wish the palliative operators the very best. But now, over 100 concerned Nigerians have signed a petition demanding justice and transparency in the ongoing presidential electoral tribunal proceedings. The move comes amidst growing concerns over alleged electoral malpractices during the February 25th presidential election, which brought the legitimacy of the results into question. The petition, initiated by the Coalition of Concerned Nigerians and addressed to several justices, highlights the frustrations and anxieties felt by a significant portion of the electorate. Furthermore, the petition calls on the justices to prioritize the welfare and interests of Nigeria and its people above all else, and to be mindful of the international community's opinions and commentaries on the election while adjudicating based on the evidence presented before the tribunal. APC, PDP, and Labour Party, PDP, Labour Party, and one other party, about 3 of them that went to court to demand for justice over the 2023 general elections. Now, this concerned Nigerians have signed a petition demanding for justice. What other justice are we demanding for? The court already said by 16th of September, this month. Yeah, that's in 15 days' time. We already know the verdict. Is this not a way of mounting pressure on the judiciary?
It is.
If they are already doing what they are supposed to do.
It is. And let me use this platform to say my mind about issues I've seen. I think these things are unnecessary. I have seen during the course of this process, people exposing the children of those justices, their business places, with threats.
Wow.
It is uncalled for. If we agreed that this is how to run a society, we should also agree when some people step out
of line.
Whether I support candidate A, B, or C is immaterial. These candidates would go. We had times we had Shagari Awolowo. There are times we had a lot of persons. They would go. The country will remain. And so in doing that, look, no one stops anyone from demanding justice, demanding fair hearing, demanding that let the truth be said about what happened in that elections. But in attacking, stylishly, tacitly, attacking the justices, don't go there. Let us not go there. Let's not go that route. It is dangerous, and let's not even start it.
Yeah.
If you are signing a petition about what? The Labour Party, the APC, the PDP, and the other political party had their representatives at the court. They argued their case, they wrote their final addresses, submitted everything to the court. And this would not stop at the appeal court. Whatever that happened, let me tell you, whatever that happened on the 16th, the president remains the president until the Supreme Court say otherwise. And so let's calm down, let's allow them to do their job. Then we will now see what judgment they are. But this idea of always putting pressure on the judges, remember Justice, was it Ian Okoro?
Yeah.
Mentioned something about the social media attacking justice. These things will not work. Yes, people should be concerned about the processes. Yes, people should be concerned about the alleged, using the word alleged, what happened during the elections. But please, if we agree that we want to run a democracy and we believe that this body is responsible for this, and we have submitted ourselves, submitted every processes to those bodies, please let's allow them to do their job.
Let's look at the other side of this conversation. Over the years, Nigerians have lost faith in the judiciary, especially when it comes to political election tribunals and the outcome of elections. 2019 was a major hit for Nigerians between Atiku and President Muhammad Buhari. However, that's not all. We just talked about the NBA and the wranglings within the NBA right now. For a lot of people, you remember the All Eyes on the Judiciary billboard, which is another way of subtly mounting pressure, in as much as that is a way of communicating what is what it is. Now, if you look at that and also put it side by side with the fact that the NBA, the Nigerian judiciary itself, have not also helped their own cause by helping Nigerians to have faith that truth will prevail on these cases, would you also say it is out of place for Nigerians to express this concern and maybe overreach themselves by these subtle pressures that they seem to be mounting on the judiciary?
First, this idea of people losing hope in the judiciary, for me, doesn't arise.
Okay.
I agree that there are cases who ordinarily should not be more than 2-3 months, spending about 10 years. Because sometimes they say justice delayed is justice denied. I agree with those processes. But let us not get to a position, I tell you, man, that there would always be allegations. There will always be for people who lose election. And in all honesty, 18 political parties contested for an election. There's only one person that would win. Let's not beat about. Only one man will win that election. Even the people who are in court today, let justice prevail. Oh, let this be told. It's only one man that will be declared winner. Only one. And in all of this, these persons had more than 1 million votes. And so for me, I agreed with some of the excesses. We have seen it, where you ask yourself, can this be real? Did this happen in this election? This that we saw? We have had tribunal cases that you go back home and you are wondering, are you sure this judge actually gave this type of judgment? And we have had judges who gave fantastic judgment, who overturned elections from a sitting governor and gave it to the opposition. We have had that in Osun State. We have had that in Ekiti State. We have had that in
Amechi's case.
No, Amechi's case is still within the PDP. We have had cases.
But it was the judiciary that made it happen.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But I'm only saying that there are cases that they took the victory from the sitting government and gave to the opposition. That the opposition won by what they have. It happened. It happened in Osun State. It happened in Anambra, even in the case of Ngige.
Yeah.
It happened there. And so all of this for me is a pointer to the fact that please let us all calm down. Yes, there are people who are aggrieved. Yes, there are people, allegedly.
Yeah.
There are people who feel that they invested so much in these elections and it should not happen this way. But in all, we have submitted ourselves to the process. Let us allow the process take its course.
All right. I think that's the best way to wrap that up. Let's trust that the process will bring forth what we can all say this is justice. Just 15 days away. Now, our Vice President Atiku Abubakar has called on African leaders to focus on the causative factors of the recent spike in coups across the continent and not the symptoms. Atiku said this in a post via his X handle on Thursday while reacting to the recent coup in Gabon, the 8th in Africa since 2020. He said the coup in the Central African country is condemnable, adding that everything should be done to sustain a democracy on the continent. He said the coup in Gabon stands condemned. The democracy and democratic governance have come to stay as a preferred form of governance, and everything should be done to enthrone, nurture, and sustain it. As I suggested, in the case of the Niger Republic, the ECOWAS and African Union authorities should open a window of diplomatic engagement that will pave way for the soldiers to return to the barracks. He said the latest coup brings the number of military takeovers in Central and West Africa to 8 since 2020. He said this is worrisome and calls for introspection. We may have to focus on dealing with the disease and not the symptoms that birth coups. A military coup had thrust the Central African nation of Gabon into turmoil early Wednesday, unseating the president whose family had held power for more than half a century just after he was named the winner of a contested election. The ousted President Ali Bongo Dimba, also known as Ali Bongo, has faced accusations of election fraud and corruption since he began ruling the oil-rich nation nearly 14 years ago. Following the coup, residents in the country's capital were seen celebrating and embracing soldiers on the street. Well, much remains uncertain, with Bongo reportedly under house arrest and his son arrested, all borders closed and the government ostensibly shut down. Mr. Momo, for so long, I felt that someone needs to initiate this conversation at their level, at the level of the lead. Talk about the causative factors, not the symptoms. When Niger happened July 26th, the junta came up to say, hey, this is it. This man is corrupt. He's been carrying all kinds of corruption acts, and he's beginning to is now inimical to our existence as a nation. So we have to step in to take charge, according to them. Now, Gabon had happened, the same allegations of corruption and what have you. Now, irrespective of the fact that no one wants the military take over the rule by the barrel of the gun, like President Tinubu would say. However, what is making these people take over power forcefully from democratic government? Like Atiku said, can we begin to talk about the causes and not just lamenting, oh, you must return to civilian rule? What led to that? Because you're still going to have military across board in these countries because they have their role to play to protect internally and externally. So,
first, let me make it clear. A coup is also an illegal takeover, a forceful takeover of government. And their exercise is illegal. We must agree that when we come to the table to have a genuine conversation. That is one. Like Atiku said, we should begin to look at the causes. And in all honesty, I think Africa has come of age that we should now begin to have what they call the African conversation. Let me tell you this. Our being in IMF, in World Bank, in all of this, tell me one of their rescue that has helped any nation in Africa. One, to say this is the policy of World Bank to Nigeria that has helped us out of poverty. And these are the real issues. Was it Uganda? I cannot remember the president who said that the House passes a law to say that we do not want gay marriage in our country.
Yeah,
and
so.
Was it the World Bank or the IMF is withholding aids to that country? You cannot dictate what these people want. My membership of a body should be what we call mutual consent, mutual relationship. There is no longer, if my father, our forefathers have accepted this idea of your saying certain things from the West and we all obey, the children would not. We went to the same schools. We did things together. People will not agree anymore. They will not take that thing you use as a whip from the West down, forcing it will not happen. Check Qatar. When the Qatar World Cup came, it became a crisis. Qatar said, this is not our way of life. This is not how we live. We don't live this way. We don't act all of these things on the streets. We don't do these things. It became the issue that World Cup should be taken away from Qatar because Qatar refuses to say that this is not our way of life. In fact, Qatar was forced to even admit that, look, whatever that you do, let it be within the stadium. Once you're out of the stadium, please conform to our rules here.
Yep.
And so these are the conversations as Africans that we should begin to have. From the Central Africa to the east of the Africa to the west of the Africa, we need to have that conversations. That, take for example, if you check Africa as a whole, you would see that those who are even making a bit of progress are the ones in the Commonwealth nations. Why? When the Anglophone came and gave us independence, they left. Our relationship were mutual. But the Francophone, the France remain in their country, decide what they do, rule their government, tell their government what to do. People are watching. And they will not take that. And so we need to now begin to have what we call the African conversation. And to say that if our forefathers accepted all of this, my relationship with you should be consensual, should be mutual, should be respectful. That what you say you want, I give. What I want, you give. What we do not want, we go our separate ways. We should begin to have that conversation now. Not that somebody sits in Paris and say that, oh, this amount of aid should go to Gabon, this amount of aid should go to Niger. Nobody's going to have that conversation anymore. We are independent countries. We want to have a conversation. And that conversation we must have. And so the symptoms are the things that we must now begin as Africans to now say, enough of the aids. What we want is business relationship. What we want is mutual relationship. Enough of the aid. Keep your aids to your country. Because some of these aids came with the under-table discussions about wealth in Africa. And it will not be accepted anymore. Unfortunately, these are certain things rooted that people in those African countries are against, especially those in the Francophone countries. And it's unfortunate.
Now, we'll have more of this line of thought conversation when we look at the last issue. Now, the reason why I asked this question, before we even talk about international interference, we'll talk about the last issue, is this. When you look at, like I said, they all talked about this government, these leaders were corrupt. Gabon, how he came into power, you know, all of this conversation. We're talking about Nigeria right now, where elections are being questioned and all of that. We're talking about several African countries. So look at Rwanda and Cameroon quickly reshuffling their cabinets and military chiefs. So you discover that there's palpable fear. But why do you think that from the AU to the ECOWAS, this palpable fear don't seem to make them realize that we need to sit up and begin to respect that? Like you said, the Africans today are not the Africans of our forebears who didn't have a voice. That globalization has actually empowered today's Africans beyond what maybe the Western world can imagine. Why do you think that African leaders don't seem to, AU and ECOWAS, but don't seem to understand that this is the reality?
No.
It hasn't hit home yet?
No. You see, unfortunately, and that is why sometimes you respect the sovereignty of other nations. Paul Kagame is about 20 years in power now, unfortunately. Paul Biya is about 40 years. But unfortunately, Nigerians cannot go and say, no, we can't do that. We also need to respect them.
Sure.
But they need to be told, whether in the sideline of conversations, off cameras, to say, please, you cannot be ruling your country this way. That is one. Two.
Go ahead.
Two is the fact that for corruption allegations, you see, I am for the society and the law. For corruption, who decide that a man is corrupt? See, democracy can be slow, it can be painful, but the gains of it is more than when you have one man having to make all decisions. If we agree that that man is corrupt, who should determine that that man is corrupt? It is a court of law. I hate when military use that excuse. We have had it in Nigeria to say, oh, this thing is corrupt. But till today, the man who has given back Nigerian wealth more is a military man, an Abacha, who we have always repatriated his funds that he lived in that government for how many years? Just some few years. Until today, Nigerian is still repatriating. And so who is now more corrupt? And so for me, the excuses of taking over government by the fact that they are corrupt, who decides that they are corrupt? Is it the military man that decides that the other man is corrupt? That is one. Two, why should it be that it is the military who can take over government? It's a conversation that we must have. Why can't I take over government? Why would I not decide now and say, okay, the government is corrupt and I want to take over government? Why? I'll be called a terrorist.
Yeah.
I'll be called a rebel. I'll be called all sorts of names. But when the military take over power, they are given the fact that, oh, there is corruption. So we must have to decide as a country, as a nation, as a continent, why should one man decide that the sovereignty of other persons, he has the power to take over?
Because if you think about it, that's also the same thing that we are running away from in the name of foreign interference and, of course, in the name of neocolonialism. But let's look at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's position on this as at yesterday, Thursday. He said the fear he had about the Putsch case in Nigeria setting a bad precedent across the continent has been confirmed by the removal of President Ali Bongo of Gabon. On Wednesday, soldiers struck in Gabon, annulling the recently concluded election and ending the 13-year reign of Bongo, who succeeded his father in 2009. Speaking, Tinubu, who spoke while receiving the Nigerian Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs led by the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Mohammed Saad Abubakar III, at the State House, Abuja, said all diplomatic options will be exhausted with the military junta in Niger Republic before any last resort of military intervention comes into the picture. He insisted that any forceful removal of a democratic government remains wholly unacceptable. That I must thank you for your several visits to Niger Republic, Your Eminence, but you will still have to go back. Said my fear has been confirmed in Gabon that copycats will start doing same thing until it is stopped. We are neighbors with Niger Republic, and what has joined Nigerians together with their great people cannot be broken. Nobody is interested in a war. We have seen the devastation in Ukraine and Sudan, but if we don't wield the big stick, we will all suffer the consequences together. Well, he also noted that Nigeria under General Salami Abubakar instituted a 9-month transition program in 1998, and it proved very successful, leading this country into a new era of democratic governance. The president sees no reason why such cannot be replicated in Niger if Niger's military authorities are sincere. But Your Eminence, please don't get tired. You will go back there. The soldiers' action is unacceptable. The earlier they make positive adjustments, the quicker we will dial back the sanctions to alleviate the sufferings we are seeing in Niger Republic. His fears have been justified, which is, oh, if nothing is done, there will be copycats. But again, isn't this expected? When leaders in Africa take positions as if they are leading themselves and not the people, when you take actions that are not in tandem with democratic dividends, what democracy should be, the international community keeps mum, African leaders keep mum across board. Are we not putting ourselves in vulnerable positions where the military that we do not want to take over power? So what exactly is the fear that has been realized now when you know that there are indices that these things could happen? Is this really a copycat, if you may?
It's turning into a copycat.
Okay.
From Mali to the other country, to Niger, and to Gabon. It's turning into a copycat. And I tell you, for me, that anyone who forcefully take over government is the same thing as a terrorist and should be treated as one.
So when you say, sorry to interrupt you, please, you said it earlier, sorry, please. Anyone who forcefully takes over government, is it just by barrel of the gun that government can be forcefully taken over? When there is election.
No, election is not force.
Yes, so if, okay, let me give you a typical example. In Nigeria, so the Nigerians did go out to vote, and they've been shouting, this is not our vote. Our vote didn't count the way we expect. This is not what we voted for. We have evidence, for instance, that results allocated to some states by INEC is not what we voted for. This is not our results. Even INEC's server doesn't show that that's what the results. And then even there are the investigation that's been carried out to show that, hey, this is not what happened. In that case, has force not been used, albeit through democratic process, to ensure to give the people what they didn't ask for?
It's an allegation. It's not a force.
It's an allegation. Even when there are evidence that these people have to prove that.
See, it's an allegation.
Okay.
Because if we choose to build than to destroy, it is false and allegation. And I tell you, anyone who loses an election lay claims to election being illegitimate.
Mr. Daniel, sorry, hold on. But I didn't talk about those who, the contestants. I said Nigerians.
There are Nigerians who say the elections were right.
I agree, but there are Nigerians who actually have evidence from INEC's documentation results signed, which is different from which are by an INEC official, which is different from what is in the server.
No, that is not false. See, when somebody committed fraud, it's not a forceful takeover.
But it's a takeover of sorts that is against the rights of the
people. No, it's an allegation. Let us not.
But if it happens,
let us not elevate an allegation to being something that is truthful.
Okay, let's do this, Mr. Daniel. Let's do this. You have a wristwatch designed with your name and on it, and you came to my house, and then you came for a party in my house, and this wristwatch disappears. You tried everything to find this wristwatch. You couldn't find this wristwatch, and then years down the line, you see me wearing the same wristwatch. It's a customized brand, and now you say, hey, this is a picture of my wristwatch. You remember, you guys, I did say that this is my wristwatch. And I went to Vivian's house for a party and it disappeared. And years down the line, Vivian is wearing this same wristwatch. How am I going to prove that the wristwatch I have is not yours? Because my name is not Daniel. And what is customized there is Daniel. If you have the copy of the evidence of this is your wristwatch, and I'm wearing that wristwatch, how am I going to prove that that is not your wristwatch?
No, I think, let me say this because millions of persons are watching. I said we must come to agree that who is responsible for an election being illegitimate. You and I are not responsible.
No, we are not.
No Nigerian is responsible to say, oh, this election, you are only speaking from the prism of where you are. Others will speak from the prism of where they are, from where they can see the issues.
Yeah, but
at the end of the day...
Mr. Daniel, does it change the truth? Even if you are saying from Jamaica that watch, Vivian, that watch, my name is also Daniel, that is my watch. Does it change the truth that there was an evidence that you were in my home, and that's when you start looking for that wristwatch, and years down the line, I have the wristwatch. Does it change? Does the fact that other people have their own truth, does it change the fact that there's a truth when you have the evidence to prove
What truth in an allegation?
An allegation remains an allegation, something that was said to be until... What makes,
by the court of law.
What is required to prove an allegation? Is it what the
because
judge
of the
says
evidence?
Or the evidence?
No. See, let's use the tribunal so that people will understand what we're saying. Elections was conducted. The PDP said no. We won that election. The Labour Party said no. From what we have as our own evidence, we won that election. The other party said no, we won that election. All of those things remains an allegation.
You see, I agree with you. Sorry, I agree with you. Like I said, for the benefit of those who are watching, our job here is to inform and to educate. I agree with you, they remain allegation. However, the subject or object of this allegation is the fact that there is evidence that I have in my hand. That is why I am saying that I won the election. And this evidence is coming from an approved body, an authorized body, which is INEC.
No. Let's not...
the results from the polling units.
No.
Who authorizes those results?
No. Let's not go that route.
No, why?
No, I'm coming. Everyone was given a fair hearing to bring those allegations before the honorable judges.
We're not talking about what is in the court. No,
I'm coming.
We're not talking about what is in the court. We're talking
about use that.
Factors that says when Nigerians are saying, for instance, we voted, our votes didn't count, and we have evidence from INEC that this is what our votes is, and that is not what is reflected in INEC's server.
And that is
not what INEC announced.
And that makes it
so when did INEC get the results it announced at the national, the conference center? If what they gave or their other officers released at the polling unit is not in tandem with what they announced?
It's still an allegation. Is that the truth?
Okay.
The one who is saddled with the responsibility to manage that election declared someone the winner of that election. Every other thing remains an allegation.
I agree with you, Mr. Daniel, but what if that one who is authorized with saddled with responsibility is declaring a result that its subjects, its officers did not release to the participants?
No. See,
make it make sense.
No. I think let's go this route now.
Okay.
INEC conduct an election, both at the state level. The national is just to announce that result. At the state level, they are supposed to collect those results, agree on those results, and then transmit to the federal.
Okay.
Then the federal would collate nationally and declare a winner. At each state, there are allegations and counter-allegations. Each state has that till today. I'm coming.
Let's we're not making progress on this subject, because when Tinubu says that his fear is justified, this fear is bred from something. And now when these fears are looking at us across Africa, it's not just about Nigeria right now. The big question then is, what do you fear that there will be copycats and all of that, and there are issues that led to these people? Why are these issues not being addressed?
In America, when Trump lost an election, did he agree he lost an election? Was it justified? Did he agree?
If what was justified?
No. Did Trump agree that he lost that election?
No, he didn't.
Does that now mean because he has several millions of votes?
But that's not the issue in Africa.
No. My take is this: that for every election, there will be people who would not be satisfied with the process.
That is not in doubt.
Now, if we move from that stage, right, so that we do not become people in the animal kingdom, that there are allegations, valid allegations, valid allegations, and those allegations need to come before we need to submit ourselves to a process. But if we now say that because of those valid, my word now, because of those valid allegations, oh, the military should top up, because it is a no-no for me.
No. Nobody is saying the military should top up, but there are factors that led to according to the military. And these factors, even if the military didn't say it, Africans know this. For instance, Gabon is one of the richest countries, also by virtue of crude, the natural resources. Oil. Look at how poor that country is. Look at Niger, for instance. Look at Nigeria, for instance. These are all the issues that are facing us every day. Is it the military that made the civilian government unable to provide democratic dividend to the people?
Do you know that the election that brought Ali Bongo to power, the militaries were the ones supervising the election? No, I'm coming.
So, at the military.
It is a society. That's what I'm saying. It is not government. When we use the word government, who are the government? These are not individuals who were elected.
Of course.
It is a society until you and I purge ourselves.
All right, so we agree on that. We totally agree on that, because I thought we were making it look like, okay, the democratic leaders are good. And
no. It is a society thing that we must agree that the society has failed us.
So we bet these products, whether they are military or democratic leaders, we bet them.
Absolutely.
And until we take responsibility, nothing is going to change. All right, you and I agree on that. All right, let's wrap up, everyone. Niger's ruling junta has ordered police to expel France's ambassador, a move marking a further downturn in relations. The coup leaders are following the strategy of juntas in neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso in distancing themselves from the region's former colonial power amid a wave of anti-French sentiment. The visas of French ambassador to Niamey, Sylvain Ite, and his family have been cancelled, and police are instructed to expel the envoy instigators of the coup, condemned by the regional African authorities and by Western nations last Friday, ordered Ite to leave the country within 48 hours in response to what they called actions by France contrary to the interests of Niger. It said these included the envoy's refusal to respond to an invitation to meet Niger's new foreign minister. France has called for the return of ousted President Mohamed Bazoum into office and said it would support efforts by West African regional bloc, that's ECOWAS, to overturn the coup. Meanwhile, the French Foreign Ministry said on Thursday the coup leader did not have the authority to ask the ambassador to leave. Well, this, I think I would say, looking at it from the side, and I expected this. That's because when they gave that ultimatum, when they invited the Ite to meet the new foreign ministry, Ite refused to go, said that they are an illegal government, they don't have power to invite them. Macron, while he was speaking in a nationwide broadcast in an event, well, Ite was listening from Niger, and he said, congratulated him for having the courage to continue to stay, and insisted that they don't have the power. So I asked a basic question. Yes, the military has taken over. That is not the government France wants. That is not the government that a lot of people want in 2023. But right now, they are the authority there. And we are talking about making ends, having a form of mediation to make things work. And they are saying, okay, meet this person. Let's see, maybe there is a new policy or something that since you're representing France in the country, and you're saying you're not going to see them. And now you're saying that they don't have the power to remove you from the country. So here we are. looking at it from the, the question I asked when I saw that news then was, why does France feel like they have the power to determine what goes on, what happens in Niger? As a government, you could have a suggestion, because the Niger is a republic right now. They're no longer under France, so to say. But here we are right now. The police has been sent to expel Ite and his family from Niger.
The police can't.
Okay.
Don't have the power.
Okay.
And let us not give powers to who do not have power to carry out certain obligation. Does the military have power?
Does the military have the power apart from the gun they have to do what they did?
No. The power I'm saying now, that square meter housing, the embassy, belongs to France. It's a foreign nation. Let us not do certain things that are illegal. It's like Nigerian going to Water Carrington in Lagos. You can't do anything there. That place belongs to the United States government.
Agree.
And anything you do there is you can't expel. Let's get certain things clear here.
Expel the police or the junta?
They can't. Even the police can't.
Okay.
Remember Julian? Remember Julian Assange, the guy who ran into the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK. He remains there for almost 6 years. Why did the UK government not enter into the Ecuadorian embassy? It belongs to another country. That place is another. You can't invade it. If you invade that place, you have invaded France.
Okay, let me ask you a good question right now. France does not have the power to, that's by diplomatic policies, right? Good. They don't have the power to, the junta does not have the power to remove Ite and his family from France. So if this push comes to shove, can you help us understand who is going to be at loss here? No. Because we are talking about the supremacy of a country to stand their ground. Remember that the constitution or the allegiance signed by the democratic government has been annulled when the military took over. Remember that.
It doesn't matter whether you are.
Remember the African Union have also removed Niger from sanction.
Yes, suspension. Now, see, let's get this so that other countries are watching. Now, you see that embassy. No, I'm coming. I'm coming.
But if the goal is peace, if the goal is to pursue peace, if the goal is not war, if the goal is to see that we don't kill hundreds of Nigerians in trying to see who has supremacy over what, can we begin to look at this from that angle?
Now, you said you invited him.
Yeah.
And he refused.
The new foreign
minister. He has the power to so do.
Okay.
President of the Union, and he decides he doesn't want to attend. It should be respected. Their opinion should be respected. The same way you want your opinion to be respected. Okay. That's one. Two, the government, whether the police, whether the anything, France can decide to leave that point when they so do.
Okay.
You do not have powers to expel them from that place. You do not have that power anywhere.
What power are you talking about?
No, I'm coming.
Are you talking about power up by the barrel of the gun? Are you talking about power by constitution and democracy?
Not barrel of the gun. See,
what power are you saying you don't have?
No, you see, under the Charter, under the United Nations, every country is allowed that has relationship with each other, allowed to establish its country in your country. I'm coming. I'm coming.
No. Is on a democratic setting.
You cannot just on announcement. Whether military or no military, it doesn't.
Who did they answer? This particular military in Nigeria right now, who did they answer to?
The embassy in Niger does not answer to the Nigerian government, whether military or civilian. They don't answer to them.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So what it means is that by diplomatic understanding, based on what you're talking about right now, I can decide to do whatever I want in a country because I am a foreigner.
No.
That when there's a diplomatic agreement.
No. When you say whatever I like, no.
There is an issue right now in Niger. ECOWAS and everyone is saying, let's see how we can get back to democratic.
No, what is the issue? Right? The issue is that meet with us. No, I'm not meeting with you. So we expel you out of the nation.
So hold on. If you're not meeting with us to begin to have a conversation or have some form of mediation, what are you then doing? What is the essence?
No. The embassy of any country does more than that.
So they can be in the country and have their own rules and that will determine what they would do in another person's country.
No, okay, now let's use Nigeria and use the U.S. Embassy. The U.S. government has several security relationships here in Nigeria.
That's true.
Businesses. It goes beyond issuing visas and all of that.
I agree. So
and the ambassador here is the head of those things here in Nigeria.
I agree. Does that then mean that the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria have the power to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, and how they want to do it?
In what sense?
There is an issue in Niger that the military took over. They formed a new government, and they are saying, okay, France is one of the countries here that has an embassy. Invited the foreign ministry, the France ambassador to move to with the new foreign ministry. He's saying, no, you won't see them. They are now exercising their power to say, you have to leave.
Wait, sorry. During is it the killing of, is it Kashiko, what's his name? This guy, this Saudi Arabian guy
that was murdered,
in one of the embassies.
Journalist.
Yes, that journalist that was murdered.
Yeah.
Did you know that the ambassador to Turkey in the US refused to meet with President Trump? They refuse. Does that mean President Trump would have to expel them out of? No.
No, but there's no military takeover in.
No, it's not about military. Whether military takeover or no military takeover, that place remains France.
All right.
And they cannot invade it.
We wish all of them the very best, but that's what you can do on ATM Blowout this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we've had such a blowout moment with Mr. Daniel, and I hope that we've been able to bring you the right information as much as possible. But then the show was streamed live on our Facebook and YouTube, on our website, on our app. But you can get the full details on our YouTube and Facebook page, and that's the Atlantic Television Network. We look forward to getting your opinion on all of this conversation. And then you can also continue to stay live to watch us live from our channel. But more importantly, you can watch us live too on Atlantic Television Network.tv. That's our website. You can also download the app ATN Live and continue to watch us live. And follow us on X, Atlantic TV Net, and Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathway to progress. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.